The houses were arranged neatly as dominoes. Each sat stiffly at attention, uniform in style, windows arranged like a smile. Yet one house stuck out from the rest. To put it simply, it was the best. Though physically it appeared in line with the others, 1016 Willow Circle was unlike any other home in the neighborhood. It was neatly polished and pristine, never a speck of dirt out of place, the picture of beauty and grace. Though voices, hushed and full of longing, often discussed 1016 in its perfection, Beatrice noticed its exceptional quality more than any other resident of the neighborhood. To contemplate its beauty was an escape from her own home, the one which had paint cracking at the seams, the one which had flowers that cried each morning as they sat in the front yard, wilting, the one which was filled with yells from her husband, bouncing off the cold and callous concrete walls. Each night she promised herself, though you and I both know this promise to be a lie, that she would lay in her own bed, stay out of her own head, and seek contentment in the cards which she was given. Yet just like clockwork at 2:45 a.m., Beatrice's feet carried her down the creaking stairs of her home, out onto the freshly paved street of Willow Circle. Upon arrival at 1016, she would simply gaze, her mind settling into a familiar daze. Whether her eyes rested upon the freshly painted door or the pristinely bright green lawn, each time the same feeling would dawn upon her. Beatrice could not help but compare the house that she was confined to the fortress of perfection that lay before her. The longer she stood before the house, the further blades of green grass would curve around her toes, trapping her to the lawn, making her accept she was confined to gaze until dawn. Suddenly, a floodlight flickered into the yard. Beatrice could feel the blood coursing through her quickly beating heart, body filled with adrenaline. Her feet carried her back to her own flawed house as her white nightgown flew about in the ghostly light emanating from the streetlight. Unable to control the fear coursing through her veins, butterflies began to spill from Beatrice's shaking body out into the crisp, cold night air. Unaware of the fear afflicting the woman from which they came, the insects' wings carried them to the back of 1016. There, a slightly ajar window sat, adorned with freshly washed curtains and ripe with the smell of Windex. Through the glass was a bedroom, perfectly clean and inviting. Light shone warmly from inside, revealing a homey room with floral wallpaper and linoleum flooring. The butterfly flew in, for she was too innocent to know any better. Yet as her delicate wings carried her across the threshold, through the only slightly open window and into the house, the scene which shone through the porthole outside changed into something entirely new. Swirls of light and darkness filled her vision momentarily, and eventually the warm glow which she had thought filled the room shifted into a wash of grays and blacks. Darkness swirled around in strong, defined tendrils of black. Dark fog consumed the cramped room, evoking a feeling of certain doom. The butterfly floated, inquisitive, through the dark bedroom and into the rest of the house. There seemed to be a battle between the image of brightness as seen through the outside and the dark tendrils grasping at every available surface within. Yet, at least to the butterfly, the furniture floating just above the linoleum floors and the chandeliers which seemed to emit darkness rather than light were not the strangest nor the most striking aspect of the house. That was the family who lived there. They sat like statues in the living room. A mother, a father, and two boys of about 10 years sat on a couch clouded in darkness and looked upon a TV which played only static. Light emitted from their stationary bodies, which were translucent in color, and contrasted against the blackness shrouding the rest of the house. The butterfly, unlike you and I, was not told stories of ghosts as a child around a campfire, and therefore could not place a name to the lifeless entities before her. Yet when she saw their dull and emotionless eyes, she knew there was something terribly wrong. The butterfly's wings flapped fast and hard, as she longed to escape the palace of darkness that would surely leave a scar. She felt the lines to reassure Beatrice, her matriarch, that she need not compare her own house to 1016, which in reality was a palace of horrors. After wandering through the dull blackness for quite some time, the butterfly finally rediscovered through the window through which she had entered. Floating daintily above the cold asphalt street, the butterfly finally reached Beatrice's house. Inside lay Beatrice and her husband on the bed. Him fast asleep, her still tossing and turning, ruminating the beauty of 1016. The butterfly meandered over and whispered to Beatrice the horrors which she had encountered. Beatrice, dazed with sleep, whirled the butterfly off as some hallucination and went back to sleep. In her own world of darkness and fog, she dreamt that she too was a member of the ghostly family, surrounded by dark smog.